Okay, we are going to learn how to do our own correlational study with the CDC Wonder site. You can just go to wonder.cdc.gov, and there are lots of great data sets that I would encourage you to browse to find data that you could use. I'm going to look at cardiovascular mortality with oral health as a risk factor. So for my cardiovascular mortality, I'm going to go to this detailed mortality data set. I have to agree to the terms. And we get a query tool where we can pull up data from this data set. Since we're doing a correlational study, I want to group my results by state. I want to get age-adjusted rates. All states, and let's just stick with adults over 25 for this particular set of mortality data, and let's choose 2012 for our year, deaths at all times. And to get the cause, you want to click on this cause list. You get a fairly easy list of causes of death. I'm going to choose major cardiovascular disease because that includes all the subcategories underneath it. You could just choose certain subcategories under that, but I'm just going to choose the major so it includes all of them. And then I'm just going to hit send. Okay, and we have our results now. We've got our adjusted rates for every state, and I'm just going to export that file. I get a nice text file that I can open up, select it all, and copy it. And then I'm just going to come over into Excel and paste that. Okay, we only need our age-adjusted rates, so I'm going to delete everything else. Great. Now let's go back to Wonder. And now for our risk factor of oral health, we're going to come over to Topics and look at some other data sets. And there's this one called Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance. It has a lot of great data in it from surveys that are done on an annual basis. And if you choose Prevalence, Data, and Data Analysis Tools, you get a series of tools that you can use. I'm going to choose the Chronic Disease Indicators. We're going to view one indicator for all location. So we're going to choose here oral health. And for the indicator, I'm going to choose no tooth lost among adults. The default is a map, but if you click to this on this little table icon, it will give it to you in a table. Now, unfortunately, CDC has changed their website, and it's a little more difficult to use now. There's no export function on the VRFSS, so we're actually going to have to do a little run around and just copy this web page. So I'm going to select all again and copy and come over into a new sheet in Excel and just do a paste special as text. oops, sorry, that wasn't right. It's just paste matching destination format. That's what you want to do. So now we've got our age-adjusted and crude prevalence, but unfortunately, see, we've got a lot of extra stuff in here because we don't have the export function, so we're just going to have to delete a bunch of stuff. It's the second column that's our age-adjusted. So I'm going to delete the first column. And then unfortunately we have all of these columns in between, all these rows in between that are the confidence intervals that we don't want. So if you actually just use the control button and come and select on each of these, you can highlight them all, right click and say delete, and shift the cells up. Delete, and you'll see then that puts them together. So I'm going to pause for a second while I finish that off. Okay, so all I did was go through and delete all those rows. It's time consuming and a pain, but unfortunately that is the only way to do it right now. Then I'm just going to take all these values and copy them. And get them selected. Go. Copy those guys. Come over to my other sheet and paste them. And then you have to make sure all the districts line up. There's some extra ones sometimes, like here's Guam is an extra one. Just highlight that and delete it. Shift those cells up. Just go through and make sure everything lines up. Puerto Rico is extra there. Great, everything lines up. Now I can delete this extra set of states. Now we've got state, cardiovascular disease, and we've got our percent with all teeth. Now I did actually make a mistake here. You want to have your dependent variable second, so I'm actually going to put this over here. So now we've got the percentage with all teeth versus the cardiovascular disease. And then finally, you just want to highlight all of these values and insert a scatter plot. and this is cardiovascular disease rate versus percent with all teeth. You want to have a more descriptive title than I have there. I'm just doing that as an example. But you can see here we have a pretty good negative correlation. As the percentage of adults with all of their teeth goes up, the cardiovascular disease rate actually goes down. So that is actually a pretty solid negative correlation there. So you want to think about how you'd actually phrase that in the sentence and then talk about the limitations. And that is how you would do your own correlational study.